Man, what is going on, everyone? I'm Justin,
And I'm Myron.
and we want to welcome you all to another edition of the Just My Luck podcast, man. Good to be back with you all this week. And y'all wouldn't know it. We've taken a few weeks break from the pod, not on purpose, just life and stuff. But the cool thing about hosting your own podcast and being just kind of being the founder, we're the founders, we're the tech guys, we do everything for the pod. We get to make our own schedule. So we're back at it, man. We're excited to see you all again. I know for you all it's the next week, but for us it's been a while. So we get to sit here and talk. Man, we wanted to come to you all today with a really this topic could go a couple episodes, maybe. Well, it probably will. Um, maybe this episode and then down the road we do another episode with it. But yeah, man, we are excited to talk to you all. So we're gonna we want to really talk to you all about or each other and include you all as well about spirituality. Now, this is a big topic. It's um we're not here to tell you all what to believe or not to believe. We're just going to talk about our experiences, some of the things that we believe, and you know, of course, you have what you believe, and we respect that as well, definitely. So, first and foremost, we got Myron at parade rest, standing at at the chair. Um, no, we are, yeah, ready. Um, no, so my experience with spirituality. So I'm a Christian, and like period, I guess is what I have to end that with, because my journey in building my connection with God, I think it's the strongest it's ever been, literally right now, and it keeps getting stronger every day. But there's been a long journey to get here. Um, I'm definitely moving in God's will for my life and trying to get better at doing that. But again, there was a road to get here. So I'm not going to tell everyone every single detail because that would be its own 2 or 3 episodes. You already have one. No, water now, unless that's for JJ. So you want,
Those Havana.
yeah. So, Havana, get down, baby. I said, y'all, if y'all gonna be in here, you can't interrupt me. Go eat that in the kitchen. The popsicle. Put that up that you got, Havana. Uh, no, y'all might as well.
Throwing the file. Might as
Yeah,
well.
man. I might as well while we're here.
Right.
No, so you all, my journey, I'll just start at the beginning and tell a little bit, and then kind of come current for now. So I always grew up going to church, right? Uh, there was a couple of years where we didn't go to church, but for the most part, I was in church uh, every Sunday in my denomination growing up. We had church every Sunday morning, every Sunday evening, and then every Wednesday for Bible study. And my denomination was called Church of Christ. And I remember my mom used to tell me it's non-denominational. Church of Christ is non-denominational. Well, it is a denomination. I remember thinking that as a kid, like, well, it technically is a denomination. And I used to go, but I never cared either way for a long time growing up. It was just what I did because it was how, that was what we did as a family. We would go. And about 11 or 12 or so, I started to feel a connection, a true connection with Jesus, and wanted to learn more about him, and decided to get baptized. Now, at that time, I was not ready to be baptized. Let me be clear. I think I rushed my process at that point. I think I just decided, okay, well, I'm ready to get baptized. I probably wasn't ready. I was a 12-year-old kid, but I did get baptized. So in Church of Christ, that is big. in Church of Christ, you have to get baptized to be saved. That's not the same in other denominations, and I'm not here to get into that. But in Church of Christ, you must be baptized to go to heaven. So at that time, I got baptized, and I did feel a better connection with Jesus and God and things like that. But I still was living my life as normal. Kind of kept God in my back pocket, so to speak. When I needed something, I pray and stuff. But kept going through life and experienced some hardships, some personal hardships and things like that. And I would call upon God and help me, but it wasn't really. It was only when I needed Him. It wasn't like I was, seeking to get closer to Him every day, and praying multiple times a day, listening to in my Bible, studying my Bible, break. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Even at church, I would go and I would understand what was being said, but it didn't really click. It didn't get through to me emotionally, or definitely not spiritually, right? Definitely get out to the spiritual in me. And so, just kind of put God on the back burner for a long time. Dabbled in church. When I went to college, I stopped going to church. Literally, I used to be involved in youth group. I used to preach youth group sermons, and you all wouldn't know this, but my father, who passed away in 2016, he went to Bible college. He wanted to be a preacher, and he had his ministry in his own way. It was just through computers, and he would fix people's computers and minister to them while he was doing it. Really helped them. There's a lot more to unpack on that, but so that desire to teach others, to kind of spread the word about God and things like that. I was kind of dabbling in it because I like the teaching aspect. So I used to lead prayer. I used to, of course, go to church multiple times a week, and I would teach. Like every once in a while, I just speak to my youth group, because they'd rotate who would speak. Different youth who are willing would do devotionals with the youth group. And then I go on retreats and stuff like that. So I was really super involved, but again, God was still on the back burner for me. And I went to college, stopped going to church. I went like once to Church of Christ, and then I went a couple of times with my girlfriend, once with my fraternity. Again, forced. It wasn't really because I wanted to. It was because I almost had to for various reasons. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what happened. So fast forward through the years, I still had God in my back pocket, but I started to realize that I couldn't do that anymore when I had nowhere else to go, emotionally and spiritually, and went through some things. Some things happened at church that caused what's called church hurt. And for anyone who doesn't know, you can think like trauma at church. We'll just call it that, for lack of a better term, that makes you not want to go to church anymore and not trust churches. So that happened when I was a kid, and I found out years later that that was what led me to how I reacted as an adult. So at some point as an adult, I told my wife that I didn't want to go to church anymore, and I didn't believe in Jesus or anything. I said I believed in God, but I said I didn't believe in Jesus, anything like that. I just believed there was a God. That was it. I don't know what that stance is called. It was an atheist. I don't know what it was called, but that's how I felt. I didn't know why I felt like that, but that's was my feeling at the time. That was what my thought on it was. And that led to struggles all over my life. In career, I struggled. In personal, I struggled in my marriage. Just so many struggles. Struggles I'm still recovering from today as we speak. Like, it's stuff I'm still having to recover from, but I'm in a different space now. And so after those struggles, I ended up going to therapy for that and other reasons. And the therapist helped uncover some of what was called church hurt, because I didn't know that up until I went to therapy the first time. And at that point, I knew what it was. Well, I didn't want to go to church. I didn't believe in Jesus, but I was still not there yet. I still wasn't like 100% bought in. At least from my own personal formation of my opinion. And what ended up happening was later that year, my father passed away. And like I told you all in 2016. And when that happened, that was probably one of the most traumatic events that I experienced for various reasons. I mean, I never seen a family member. My grandfather passed when I was in sixth grade. And well, both my grandfathers passed when I was in sixth grade, but I wasn't nearly as close to them as I was to my father. So when he passed, it was weird because I didn't expect him to be gone that soon. And to see him sick, to see him wither away, to see his body in the hospital, to see him the night before he died. Um, Stuff just happened so quick, and it was extremely, extremely traumatic for me. Of course, it made me feel my own mortality at that time. Like I was like, man, he's gone at 54. I'm not far from 54 in the scheme of things. Life is but a vapor. So it led to a lot of issues. But one of the main things that happened was I had probably one of the biggest emotional breakdowns and kind of spiritual awakening there. That was the first time I became, I not only did I start believing in God and Jesus, but I began to be real with them about what I was feeling. So that's when I first started. I would pray and I would literally just say whatever I was feeling. I'm talking about, I would curse, yell, I would punch stuff. But I wanted to be as honest and um, raw as possible to, because that's what I figured was the best course of action. And it turns out that was a good course of action. It was the best approach that I could have taken in hindsight, but it was decent because because what happened was God began to work on some things in my life after, early 2017. Um, there there became a point, the emotional breakdown, it was rough because that was the first time that I was uh literally suicidal. I literally was uh thinking, I I thought to myself it would be better, and this is how I knew I was having some kind of like breakdown. I said I'd rather be like sleep permanently than having to be alive dealing with this pain that I'm dealing. So I said I'd rather be sleep. And mind you, it was crazy. I had a child on the way and everything, but I was like, bump that. And so it was a crazy turn of events that brought me back to even believing in Jesus, the Holy Spirit, things like that. Over the years since then, up until now, I've had various spiritual mentors, including my younger brother. He's been a spiritual mentor to me, and not just in Christianity, not just in the Bible. I've had spiritual Myron here. He's a spiritual mentor to me, in a sense. This is not. It's not. To me, it's not a one size fits all thing. Spirituality is not. It is not. The reason I said this, and I believe this sounds a child, is that if you never told if you never told someone about Church of Christ, Baptist, Catholic, Muslim, whatever, they don't know it exists. So when they get up to heaven, is God going to say, or when it's time for judgment, is God going to say, well, depart from me, I didn't know you? They didn't know. They literally did not know. So even with people going around speaking, how many priests are there? How many ministers are there? Billy Graham spoke to stadiums for decades, and still there are people out there that don't know. I mean, seriously, people don't know. So, and they're not wrong for that. Whatever people believe, that's what they think is right. Period. That's what's right to them. So I said it to say I always thought that. So I've always sought spiritual mentors in different places, and now at this point, um, I've just been deeper diving, studying, especially this last year or so or two. Prayer calls. Me and Myron used to be on prayer calls and things. That was a big push for me. Um, Talking to our friends, our friend group, me, Myron, and two other guys have a pretty close friend group, especially spiritually. Um, Studying the Bible, breaking stuff down. Um, really looking at stuff, taking time to say, okay, someone said this, and it is in the Bible because I open the Bible and look at it. But I will actually look at it and I'll look at it in context. Who's speaking? Who's being spoken to? I'll take that verse. I'll break it down word for word. I'll get a concordance, which is like you can think of it as like a dictionary for biblical terms. You can see the different translations and stuff like that. I'll compare to for one verse. I have a page of notes. I had a friend see my notes one time, you all, for breaking down one Bible verse. He said, "You should be a preacher. This is a sermon. The, you pulled all this stuff from this one 8-word passage. How?" I said, I'm just researching to make sure I'm forming my beliefs off what I'm actually reading here in this book. And not just saying it because someone else told me to say it or I feel like their way is right or no person. It's me. And been going through devotionals and studying, as I mentioned, and just really seeing some growth and connection to God. Um, I no longer feel he speaks to me every day, and I record what he tells me, and I act on those things. Am I perfect at it? No, I'm not by any means. Some stuff I'm like, nope, ain't doing it. And if you want me to, and I tell God, I'm like, look, Jesus, if you want me to do this, I'm give you permission to make me. You say I got free will, okay? I take that away. Make me literally, because if it's on me, I ain't doing it. I'm still at that point on some things. Literally, I'll be like, you want me to do that? Nope. So I'm still in process. I'm still working on myself spiritually and how I go about doing things. Um, but definitely a lot of growth and connection to God as far as my spiritual life. So I'm definitely blessed. I'm at a way better place mentally. Um, Still have struggles and things like that, but it's all temporary. If from my beliefs, it's all temporary. So I want to make sure and glorify who's supposed to be glorified in the things that I do. At the end of the day, right? Um, I, I will get some stuff out of the deal that was promised in the Bible. I am going to get some stuff out of the deal. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about glorifying who's supposed to be glorified, and it's getting better, man, every day. So I'm definitely today. My connection is stronger with God than it was even yesterday. Tomorrow it'll probably grow even stronger, and there's no telling what the future holds. And even if I go tomorrow, I know that I have I am I know that I'll go to heaven if I go tomorrow. I 100% know that I'll go to heaven. So that's my spiritual journey, and there's a lot more to that. Of course, y'all probably heard like 20 different things that I could break down more and unpack, but that's just a quick version of things and how I got where I am now. So that's my journey and my beliefs spiritually. So now I'm a Christian, and I'm I do what my Bible says, man.
Nice.
Yep. So next, Pastor Kirkendall, Minister Kirkendall.
Well, I'm gonna go pretty quick in terms of my overall situation or whatever. Um, just so we can kind of ask some questions and kind of get to some other things in terms of our other thoughts or whatever. And I'll give some of my positions as I go through what my thoughts are. I think for me, I grew up at I was a Baptist, and went to Baptist church. We kind of shifted more so to a non-denominational kind of feel towards the latter part of my time there, back in my hometown, and we had a few different pastors kind of transition, not really a whole bunch. I had Reverend Rainey when I was really young, and I got baptized under Reverend Rainey's leadership. Then I think we had forget the other pastor that came behind him. And then eventually we ended up having our youth pastor become the pastor at the time, and everything. And yeah, I had a lot of good times, I would say, during that particular period, because first off, I sung in the choir and was in youth groups, and um, was a part of a quartet group and stuff like that, playing drums for them, and um, so a lot of opportunities to really connect with um, my spiritual feelings. And we had Bible study too, just like Justin talked about on Wednesday, all that good stuff. Sunday, and of course, different events and different things like that. I've been in like plays for church and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I mean, really good experience. Um, I'd probably say around the time I got to high school, I think things kind of transitioned a little bit for me in terms of things. I had a negative experience, I would say, kind of with my pastor, because I kind of shared some information about some personal things for me at the time. And I felt like he kind of judged me a little bit in terms of that thought process. And we talked about it years later, and I asked him, kind of what was the deal with that. And he said, well, ultimately, that came because I was just disappointed. Um, and I just, even with that, I mean, I thought that just kind of sucked, you know what I'm saying? Because, for ministers and stuff like, but I understand from his perspective in terms of things, because, um, from at least just from my understanding, there was a lot of different things that were going on in terms of like the younger generation in the church, where they were making different types of choices and decisions. And when the pastors has like different type of leadership, you have people that you're extremely proud of, and you probably kind of get to a point to where you feel like, oh, they can't make any mistakes, but you realize that everybody's human and capable of making an error, and things like that. So uh yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that transitioned anything for me, because I still, uh when I went to college, I still was active in church, singing in the choir and stuff like that. I don't know if Justin remembers Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, um,
I do. We found the
and stuff.
pastor. He's up here in Memphis.
Oh,
Pastor Brand.
Pastor Brand's in Memphis now.
Yeah, he got this huge church down the
Oh
street from
wow.
us.
Oh really? Oh man,
It's
yeah,
huge.
he's good people. He's a Sigma as well too.
Shout out, shout out to the Sigmas.
Right. But yeah, I mean, definitely still continue to be active even within grad school, in the current city that I'm in. And um, I think the big transition for me spiritually came when I kind of hit some adversity within my life, and and always, in terms of Islam, just because of Malcolm X, I'd always been kind of just wanting to learn and just kind of understand a little bit more about um, what give this person this level of boldness to be able to kind of stand up for himself and for a group of people. Um, what made this person so uh, courageous, bold, and well learned, and what gave him, the levels of motivation and things that he had at the time. Um, of course, learned a little bit about the Nation of Islam, and just kind of what their philosophical points and everything was. But when I kind of hit some rough spots in my life, I ended up, in Chattanooga, and I ended up going to one of the mosques there in Chattanooga, and connecting with Brother Hamid El Amin. Um, and just talking to him a little bit about different things that were going on for me. And I think probably one of the beautiful things about him as a person is I really never felt that I told him stuff. I told him a lot of stuff about my life. I told him about stuff that was currently going on for me. And he never judged me. Like I never I kind of experienced that in terms of like with my friends. Like I talk with Justin, we talk about different stuff, and some of my other friends as well too that I'm really close with. And I keep my circle kind of small in terms of those people that I share intimate information with, and I really trust those people, and I think those people also trust me as well too. So that's why we continue to keep our friend circle the way that we do. Um, and I think that people know when they dealing with, people like me and Justin, they know they dealing with some real ones. That's just what I believe. And it shows in terms of those people that know. But anyway, long story short, actually became, and it, for some of my friends and some of my family members that may listen, I hadn't shared with anybody, but it was the first time that I'd ventured outside of my religion in terms of being a part of the Christian faith, and I became a Muslim at the time, and it was a beautiful thing. I cried, and um, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance because you got to keep in mind that I think at the time, I mean, I had been a Christian for what 30, 30, at least 30 years at that time, or not, probably not quite that, because I was 5 when I got baptized, 5 or 6, something like that. So I was really young, so about 20 some years. So, it's just within all of these spiritual things, it's kind of like you're searching. Um, and I think, as I've learned in terms of things with just like religions and a lot of things in terms of doing a lot of the history and the research and stuff, it kind of is disappointing in terms of a lot of stuff that I've learned in terms of um, how people have used religion to kind of gain control over people and things like that. And, I think the challenge a lot of times, and I think I don't know if I want to get too deep off into stuff. Praise be to Allah. uh, yeah, man. You know,
Brian, I'm gonna
I
let you
just
finish, but I want to tell you something funny. I said that in the song once. Brianna
yeah.
said, "Oh, you Muslim now?" I said, "No, me and Myron talking about the same person, bro.
Exactly.
I'm the same person, so I can
Yeah, we
say
still
that. I'm fine."
right, right. Anybody can, it's just it's just, different people like Jews use Jehovah, you know, right? It doesn't everybody, if you go to a different country, they're gonna have a different name for them. Muslims just call them Allah. So um I but in terms of just a long story short, I mean I think I'm at a place I think spiritually where I am becoming more of a I'm doing more thinking and kind of really just getting in tune more so with the source more so than kind of just following a specific religion, I would say, or anything like that. I still have a lot of questions, and I still pray to God about just gaining understanding. And me and my cousin, we've recently talked to, even a few years ago, or he talked to me just kind of about spiritual laws, and he kind of prescribes to that type of philosophy in terms of things. He personally hasn't been to a church or a synagogue or a masjid or anything like that in years. Um, and but he definitely believes in God. He definitely studies the Bible, the Quran, and a lot of different things. It just, he just doesn't associate with any type of religion, and that's okay. And I think that for everybody, their journey is going to look different. Um, I guess this is a good segue into just kind of other thoughts in terms of other things that we can kind of discuss. Um, I think people one, are not really sure about, I think one of the biggest questions that I have in terms of everything is like, I know everybody wonders like really like what's going to happen after you die. We know based upon our religions and what people have told us, what specifically is going to happen and the descriptions of these things. But, honestly, like nobody has died, came back, and then given a description of what that looks like. Other than like through the Bible, nobody's come and be like, hey, I passed away. This is what heaven looks like. This is what hell looks like. This is what whatever purgatory or whatever. These is what these places kind of look like. Or these are these different or nobody has come and say like, yes, this is what you should believe, or um you know it's kind of a scary thing. And for Islam too, that was kind of a scary thing to me, but it was kind of a empowering thing too. With Islam, in terms of salvation, there's a difference in terms of it in for Christianity. In Islam, everything is based upon your deeds, but ultimately it's up to it's Allah is in control, so everything still is based upon His mercy, right? But in Christianity, it's about the salvation. Your salvation comes through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And with that in mind, as long as you go through the act of baptism and you believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, you'd be saved. But at the end of the day, still faith without works is dead, right? So there's still you can still do the believing and the baptism and everything, but you hear people coming out of your dry devil coming up a wet devil or whatever. You still need to have the actions and the behaviors that kind of align with what it is that you believe, right?
Yep.
So even with that, it's still like God's mercy, because we even with that, like, what are the scales? There's nothing active. You don't have a scale that's actively like, all right, Mario, you need to do this or whatever. And so people, I don't believe that, regardless of whatever faith, I don't believe that you can believe that you're going to be saved through in terms of the Christian faith. I personally don't believe that you can just believe in Jesus Christ and simply that's it. Like, your actions and behaviors have to align with what it is that you believe. So um there's just a lot of things or questions and things that I have, but I think I honestly have just I think I've just become tolerant to just allow people to believe what it is that they believe in terms of that, and kind of just, I remember Malcolm X making a statement in terms of during a speech, and he's basically said like, hey, just leave your religion at home, you know, because at the time there were other pressing matters at the time in terms of him during his experience, um, that he had to go through, you
Turn on the
know,
light. Turn
so
my light back on, y'all.
they were dealing with just racism and bigotry, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't have any time to be concerned with
No, no, turn on my light.
they didn't have no time to be concerned with what does somebody believe spiritually. Like, we got other things to worry about.
Yep.
So
I'm dark as a mug. Goodness gracious alive. That light went off. I was like, I ain't seen them but eyes.
You cutting up now, man. You cutting up. So I mean, what I don't know if we necessarily want to dive into like the specifics in terms of like salvation or any stuff, but like, I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of um what are your thoughts just in terms of like, how do you do you feel like, do you personally feel like you need to be affiliated with some type of religion or something to be spiritual, or do you feel like uh, a person doesn't necessarily have to be centered around a specific group or organization to be spiritual?
I think that we all have spirits in us, and we have a spirit in us, and I think that religion is a set of doctrine.
Hmm.
I create a religion right now
Hmm.
in my journal. To spread it to enough people, some people catch on. I'm a leader. I'm a religious leader at that
Hmm.
point, right? So I don't believe you have to be a certain religion. I do believe you need to study
Hmm.
um, for yourself. I believe that
So to show yourself approved, man.
study and show that self approved. That's man. That's the key. That's
Hmm.
that. If I could, I mean, if I could turn back dials of time, I would spend so much less time um, in uh, Bible study class,
Hmm.
and I would spend in sermons, and I spend more time. I take some classes to find out some of the best ways to study, because
Hmm.
obviously, I want to learn how to study properly. But I spend a lot of time studying, more time studying the Bible for myself.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and then, that would have. There's no telling how much I could have avoided and rectified. Not because not from my father, not from my dad. They wouldn't have to tell me, because it's already in the Bible what I need to do.
Hmm.
And if I would have just studied more, or if I would
Hmm.
have had that chance, I would. But of course, even before I was born, I don't. I know God knows the plan. He knew the plans He had for me
Hmm.
personally. So whatever's gonna happen, it's supposed to happen. Like literally, it was already planned before the world was even made. He already had in his plans for what's gonna be with me. So, um, when it comes to something a specific religion, no, I don't think you need that. I do think you should study.
Hmm.
I think you should study what you're drawn to study.
Hmm.
There was a time where I was studying Buddhism. I
Hmm.
studied. Um, I don't really study. I studied. I I was going to start studying demonology, just to
Hmm.
study and see what and satanic stuff, not to practice it, but more so to see what's going through these people's minds.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
actually watched a documentary on it. And I can say this, and they believe that what they're doing, like they don't always just go out and murder people. They actually have some beliefs and commandments and things they follow that are positive.
Hmm.
They have like some positive things that they follow um out of that. So they're almost like us, except their God is Satan. Now I'm not
Hmm.
saying that's right, wrong, whatever. I personally think it's wrong, but I think you should study what you're drawn to study, and that is the way that you will begin to find what is best for you. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna have to form our own. We're gonna eventually have to form our own worldview
Hmm.
and how things are gonna happen, or how we guess. I guess at best we can guess. And you
That's the
want to
thing.
study. You want to study what you can and form your worldview from what you study. You
Yeah.
don't want to just automatically take someone else's because it was told to you, and that includes my parents. That includes anyone. I, I don't want to just take it. I want to actually study for myself and see. And sometimes I agree with people. Sometimes I disagree. But I don't. It's not like I call them and say, "Hey, I disagree." Take it. Do what you will. Do what's thou. Do what thou'st wilt. Um, yeah, I don't think, but no, I don't think any particular religion is required.
Mhm.
per se. And salvation, like me personally, in all my studies, I found that salvation comes through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Believe in him, believe, and here's the thing: be baptized, and and the Holy Spirit is needed too. That's the third
Mhm.
component that I didn't know was a thing, but studying with one of my spiritual mentors, he told me, look at this verse. Don't believe he says, don't even believe me. Forgive me. I'm a person. Look at this verse, look at who it was written to, who wrote it, all that. And I saw that the Holy Spirit is a big part of that as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I found in my studies. And as far as what's after this, heard you mention that earlier. So I'm a big researcher of near-death experiences, right? People who these are people for anyone who's never heard of that. That's people who have died or claimed. Let's just say claim, right? Because obviously we don't know for sure, but these people claim that they have died and they've started to go to the other side or been to the other side. Some people claim that they've been to heaven or hell, things like that. I'm also a big fan of people's testimonials. Uh, these people who are still living, who have had encounters with Jesus, with spirits, with demons, and things like that. And my thoughts on it, from all that I've heard, all my studies and things like that, what the conclusion I've come to is that every single one of these people who are claiming these things, they can't all be lying. Or, well, technically they could. Technically they could all be lying. I don't think that every single one of them is a liar. And I dare to say, if one of them is telling the truth, if one of them is telling the truth, that means that there's some something after. If one of these near death experience people are telling the truth, there's some form of after. My dad used to tell me that my dad used to say, um, we were somewhere. He said that we were somewhere before this. He said when I was a child, I used to tell people that I study my Bible and I tell people we were all somewhere before this. I don't know where, but all of us were there. Like it was me, like Martin Luther King, people like that.
Mhm.
He says then we were born, and then after we go back there, wherever we were. We don't remember or anything like that. I always thought it was crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I always think some of the stuff my dad would say, and looking back, he was okay. Looking, if there's not enough light. No, I want you to turn on my light. You're gonna have to wait. Once I'm done, we can turn off the light again. Once I'm done with this, you can turn off the light. I might play the game. I might play the game, but turn on the light. I don't look cool. I can't even see myself. Look, you see my teeth and barely my eyes, Savannah. I'm a very melanated individual. I know you can barely see my face. Look. Dun, 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 like John Cena. All right, turn on the light. But
So patient.
huh?
So
Oh,
patient.
I mean, it, not always, but again, but bro, I'm telling you,
Mhm.
just the other day, God told me. This literally came into my mind during when I was just listening for
Mhm.
God. He was like, and I think I was driving. He
Mhm.
said, lead your family. That's what he said. And I was like, what the heck does that even? He was like, there are so many people looking at you, which most of them you won't know and you'll never know really. But I mean, people are looking at you. Um, but who's especially looking at you is your family, because, and I've said before, your attitude as the male in the house, like that drives a lot of the attitude of the whole household and how it is. So, but when God told me that, it just confirmed what I had already said. And I was like, okay, well, I must be on the right track. And there's stuff in the Bible to back that up. You know, there's um the Christ-like not principles, but characteristics like patience and things like that that are important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that are listed as important in the Bible. And so one of those things is patience for sure. And again, I ain't perfect. I'm not saying I ever will be, you know, but definitely, definitely taking that into extra account. And it's helped a lot. Even the last few days, there have been times where I would have even raised my voice, but I was able to like take a deep breath, catch myself, you know, and I have other tools, like worldly tools that I use as well, like exercises and stuff, like kind of mental health coping skills that I use to supplement, you know, prayer. Then I also have my tools. So uh, anyway, back to what I was saying. Um,
I think something cool that you kind of mentioned though is pulling things from different um, religions, right? So I really think the concept of in Islam of praying 5 times a day is an awesome thing. One
oh, it's
because of
golden,
one because of
epic.
the um, one because of the movements that you make uh, in terms of everything. But I think two, just a it kind of teaches us that our creator is important enough for us to consistently spend
No,
time with him. You know, I think that that is the wonderful thing that I kind of learned from that in terms of um, 5 times a day. There's a special moment where I shut down everything that I'm doing. And I focus my intentions and I focus my mindset towards that. You know, I think that's a good principle to learn, and I think that in terms of um, you know, I think it's in terms of Christianity. A lot of times, it's the community is so cool in terms of the people that you see. You know, and in terms of wherever I've went, um, I think people are intentional. I feel in terms of, and you find kind of like that niche of a group of people. And I think you find that in all places, but I've seen that so much, and I think just uh, from that standpoint, in terms of those particular communities. But anyway, I just think there's so much that you can learn from all of them that you study and learn and take the time to understand. And it gives you a
yep,
deeper understanding and gives you a deeper worldview to understand somebody else's beliefs and thoughts as well too. And I think it kind of helps you not be judgmental, because I feel like in certain cases when I had a different faith, you know, it gave me a different worldview, and you see other people's thought processes, and you kind of like, well, no, that's wrong or whatever. And I think that kind of sucks too. I think that's kind of the thing that for me in a lot of cases is it just is kind of frustrating, is to just see how regardless of what it is, it could be religious, it could be political, just anything that drives division in between folks really grinds my gears. I don't really um, care, and I don't mind it, but when it is used as a tool to create division and also create hate behind it, that's the part I don't like. You can have a different opinion. You can be Republican or Democrat or whatever the heck you want to be in terms of your thought process and your viewpoints and your values. That's fine. But like that, don't let that dictate how you treat somebody. He don't believe what I believe, so screw him. Now that ain't how any of our religious leaders or prophets, right? None of those people would have told you to have that particular thought process, right? So
Yeah, nobody would have listened to him anyway if they would have had that thought process. If Peter would have hit that Peter, I think it was Peter who did the Sermon on the Mount. If he would have did that, and he would have been like, "Hey, y'all all wrong because y'all don't believe in Christianity. Y'all whack," then nobody would have converted to Christianity. So, are you talking to me or on the phone? Oh, you're on the phone. Okay. Well, you all, as you can see, Myron is handling important dad business and husband business, I'm assuming. And but yeah, man, we're really big on just talking this stuff through. This and even the stuff we're saying, we're not saying that everyone should believe and agree with everything. My belief is you study for yourself and see what you form from things. I've told you some of the things that I study and believe, and so is Myron here, man. So with that, man, we're getting ready to wrap this up. But I want to tell you, we will definitely continue this discussion as we go forward. We may pick it back up next week, or we may go to another topic, come back to it. We may bring in other people next season, man. We don't know, for to have some further discussion. I mean, I got some heavy hitters for me, or people that have really helped me, that almost shifted my entire paradigm, just from talking to them. Me and Myron have a brother named Artez, and I mean, I've had I've sat in the car with this brother, and I've told him, I said, man, I'm having an issue with this, and he's literally, the stuff he's told me has been a game changer for me, and from a spiritual level. He's like, well, here's what probably happened, and I'm like, that actually makes sense. And not just that, he backs it up with, you know, scripture and other things as well. So I'm like, okay, he's not just talking; he's backing this stuff up, and he has stuff to back it up, plus his experience. So yeah, man, we got some people we could bring in on the topic. My brother, he's a good person to bring in. He is a Hebrew Israelite. Um, he's very knowledgeable in the Bible. He's changed my paradigm a lot. He's pushed me to go deeper in my studies. Um, I'm sure Myron has some people too he could bring on, just have some discussion and things like that, that could really, open our minds, you all's minds, and things like that. But man, we want to leave everything with this. Regardless of what you believe, keep an open mind. That's big, as Myron was talking about earlier. But like I was saying before, you all, I know Myron was on the phone at the time, I think, but I think it was Peter. Apologies, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I think it was Peter who did the Sermon on the Mount, and maybe it was Jesus. And
It was
but
Jesus.
so, oh, it's Jesus. Okay, so imagine if Jesus would have got up there and been like, y'all don't believe what I believe. Y'all whack. Get off my mountain. Right? If you did that, been closed minded like that, like some people are, no one would have. Because they would be like, what? Really? Okay. Well, what you going about our life? Right? So that's the worst way to get your point across, is to be closed minded to what other people believe and not listen, and not see things from their point of view, right? Because there's a reason we're all where we are spiritually and politically as well. But anyway, we're gonna get out of here, y'all. We got families, stuff like that. Got stuff happening. So with that, I'm Justin,
Now, Myron.
and this has been another edition of the Just My Look podcast. Y'all have a great one. Peace.
Peace. Oh, I did, like I said, to point out on them, like, y'all take it easy. Uh-oh. Let me
All right.